Hey guys, so the Jazz just beat Cleveland Cavaliers by 30 points. Overall, not really a major win for the Jazz. Obviously, any win in the NBA is important, and it was great to see the Jazz go and pick up a win, especially when they have shown struggles on this road trip. They did lose to the Nets and the Knicks on it, but they finished 4-2. They will not be playing the Washington Wizards tomorrow. Washington doesn't have the necessary 8 players to for the NBA to let the game go through. So that game has been postponed. I don't know what postponed really means right now, whether it's kind of we'll play it if we have time. I would not be surprised to just not see that game be made up at all. But the Jazz are going to get some well-needed rest due to that cancellation. I'm assuming they're flying to Utah tonight, and then they won't have another game until Friday. So that gives them Wednesday, Thursday to prepare for the Hawks, and then fly out and play Denver on Sunday, as opposed to the back-to-back, day off Atlanta, day off Denver, and have that also include flying to a different city every night. So overall, I think this is really nice for the Jazz. I do believe they would have beat Washington in large part because I believe Bradley Beal is hurt, and also that Russell Westbrook is injured. And so that on top of the COVID issues, I thought they would have won, but we're not going to get to see that game. So takeaways from this game, looking at the plus minus, all the starters finished in the positive. Worst was Gobert with plus 13. Best were Mitchell and O'Neal with plus 22. You did have some of the bench finish in the minus. That was Brantley, Hughes, Azubuike, and Harrison. Obviously, those guys came out at the end of the game, so not really anything bad to be taken off of that. Leading scorer, Donovan Mitchell, 27 points. Most importantly, 5 for 7 from 3. Just great game from him. He also had 4 assists. So overall, good game from Donovan. Clarkson was the next leading scorer with 21. He was 5 for 9 on threes. And it was really nice to see him go and have a good game in Cleveland. They obviously traded him in the Dante Exum deal. Clarkson has been amazing for the Jazz, and up until Exum got injured this year, he was doing a really good job for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I hope Exum can get healthy. I know that that's a big reason why the Jazz traded him. I think it would be really interesting to see where the Jazz were today if Exum hadn't had the injuries that he had, and if he was able to possibly be the backup or even starting point guard for the Jazz. Just the defense that he brings is something super special. So I really hope to see him get back on track, and hopefully his body lets him play, since his heart definitely wants to. Look overall, Cleveland is one of the best teams in the NBA at forcing turnovers. I believe they're ranked number 1. Last stat I saw, they forced a turnover on 1 of every 5 possessions, 20 per 100, which was my biggest concern for the Jazz going into this game. And then you hear that Drummond's out, and that their other leading, and that Sexton's out, and that just pretty much their top 3-4 players all weren't able to play, whether I believe it was all injury related, that there was nothing COVID related. So I think Cleveland has a lot to play for. They've got some great talent. Okoro, they're the number 5 pick in this year's draft. Just really exciting player. He only was able to score 11 points tonight, so not the greatest game against a pretty good defense in the Jazz. But I do need to give credit for Cleveland coming and playing. The Jazz were going to win this game. Could they have blown it? Yes. Had they blown it, it would have been a Jazz loss, not a Cleveland win, just based on the fact that the Cleveland roster is so decimated right now. So I'm really hoping that Cleveland can get things back together in the future. definitely want to see that small market team succeed. So back to the turnovers, though. I kind of got a bit off track there. So the Jazz had 18 turnovers again. I believe some of those were in the latter part of the fourth quarter, but still way too high of a number. On the bright side, though, only 7 of those were steals. So that was keeping Cleveland below average on their steals. And overall, Jazz played a great game, at least keeping live ball turnovers. There were those dead ball turnovers that you want to see improved, like some shot clock violations. But thankfully, the Jazz weren't letting Cleveland get out and run, which is what Cleveland does so well. So I'm going to get to the chat here in a second. My main question is, like, what are your road trip takeaways? But also, since this game was pretty straightforward, what are your thoughts on the league's new COVID-19 protocols? When you're typing those in the chat, we're at over 200 subscribers. We're shooting for 220 by the end of the week. Our end goal is 1,000 by the end of the season. So not sure if we're going to be able to get there at the current pace we're at. So please tell your friends, let people know, comment, like, subscribe. Just really help us push so that we're able to get more Utah Jazz content out there for you guys to watch. The first comment in the chat right now is from Tony Lakers Nation 23. You think Rudy Gobert is a top 5 center? So if I was going to name other centers just to go on that list, Anthony Davis, if you're playing him at center, definitely one of the top 5 centers in the league. Then you have Joel Embiid, center, definitely a top 5 center in the league when he's healthy. That is one thing that Gobert definitely does better than Embiid. He stays consistently healthy. So that's 2. You have Jokic and Nurkic, Denver and Portland respectively. Those guys are top 7, top 8 for sure. And then Bam Adebayo is another top 7, 8 center in the league that comes to mind. And other center, drawing a blank. Capella's pretty good. Not sure if I'd put him up there. I do think Gobert is a top 5 center when it comes to value. The Jazz definitely have built their style of play around him. So Gobert isn't a player like LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard, who I believe are very much plug-and-play players, where if you put them on the Jazz would instantly be a better team and be able to very easily work around it. I don't know how many centers are plug-and-play players, though. So obviously, you'd love to see 20 plus from Gobert. That's not really going to happen. But when you see the number of screen assists that he has, that just is overall something that no other center in the league does at his level. Also, Gobert absolutely alters shots at the rim, just completely changes what other defenses do. And contrary to what people say, he does, in my opinion, do a very good job of guarding the 3 ball, just being able to be out there with his length. And even if he's 6-7 feet off the player, really disrupt where they're at. So that's my thought. I think he's a top 5, not from an offensive perspective, at least putting the ball in the hoop, but definitely from what he brings to the offensive and the defensive end for the Jazz. Next question, Will Jensen. Why do you think Gobert has been shooting so poorly? I don't really know. That's something that he needs to fix. He's been struggling. I do feel like he's been trying to add a few more shots to his repertoire, which is going to bring down his average some, but he has missed some shots in the paint that have been really disconcerting. So I do need to take a look more at that and try to watch what he's doing in the paint more to have a better answer on that. Next is David Chase. Games like this, at least let 3. Yeah. So maybe the Jazz should have brought in their bench a bit sooner, or their deep bench a bit sooner. Overall, though, it was nice to see the Jazz put up some points and just really see Bogey find some rhythm. It would have been nice to have seen Gobert and O'Neal and Conley put up some more points. But I don't want to dig so deep into a game where the Jazz, after the first quarter, just really went on a run and put it away and never let Cleveland get back in it. Thanks, JM. We really do just appreciate the 200 subs, and we appreciate everyone who subscribed. It's really hard to get subs and to get people to come and watch the videos, and that's not us who really do anything. We can do our best at putting out videos, but it's really you guys who come and watch them. So thank you so much, and thanks for all of the likes and the interactions in the comments. It's just super awesome, and I've used awesome a million times, but it's super great to see the growth that we've had, and fingers crossed that we'll get more growth. We know that the Jazz isn't a big market team, but one of the awesome things about that is just the community amongst the creators and amongst the Jazz fans. So we're really looking here to just build a tight-knit Jazz community where we can hopefully see the Jazz have success in the playoffs and maybe even push to the Western Conference Finals this year. So looking at the stats just to see if there's anything else that really jumps out to me, I guess I'll go to the team stats. I was on the play-by-play for the players. So I didn't catch this. Jazz made 24 three-pointers. I thought they got caught at 21, 22, but I guess they made a few towards the end of the game when they had their third strings out there. I believe that's one off the record that they set against the Bucks. But what's really telling on that is that was out of 45 shots. So that was 53%. So the Jazz showed that when they're left open and when they're not being guarded super up close on the three-pointers, that they can make it, which is just overall a big boost. I think even when you're playing a team that just really doesn't have the manpower to defend you through no fault of their own, being able to see the ball go through the hoop just gives you that extra confidence to hopefully be able to carry that on into the next few games and to improve that overall. I'm going to take a quick look if anyone else wants to hop in the comments and leave a something that they thought or something they want to discuss down there. I'll give that a read. But at what the 538 updates are for the NBA playoffs after today, they last I checked, they actually have the Jazz a lot lower than I thought they would be. So let's see. This was updated today. So looking down here, the Jazz currently, when looking at the conferences, they've jumped up to the fourth. 538 had them at the 7th seed, which I knew they had started off poorly in some scenarios, but overall, I thought that they should have been higher. So they've shown that with their last few wins. It's a three-way tie, actually, with the Mavericks, Nuggets, and Jazz for the 3 seed. So Nuggets, I think, are just going to keep dropping and not be who we expect. And Mavericks are going to, it depends. Porzingis is back, so we'll see how they do. So, Oscar Scorville left a comment, with the season looking so unpredictable, how do you see the Western Conference shaking out? So it depends a lot on what the NBA does. There's a lot of talk about people who think that the NBA should stop playing games. I'm currently not in that boat. The number of positive tests has honestly been relatively low. What has been high is the number of quarantines based off of the lack of social distancing and just the NBA being really zealous in trying to make sure that they're not the cause of an outbreak. So overall, I hope the new restrictions lead to less games being postponed. But I think that the Lakers are going to finish at the 1 seed. And with how the Clippers been playing, they'll definitely be a 2 or a 3. I don't actually know how much I think the unpredictable season is going to impact seeding. And it'll be really interesting to see where that goes. So I think that teams that are really going to struggle are teams like the Nuggets and maybe the Suns and Rockets, who overall just don't have necessarily the best cores or the best team unity right now. And that it's going to be hard if they're having to postpone games and not being able to practice. The Jazz have definitely been a bipolar team this year with their hot streaks and their cold streaks. I do think that Wizards game being postponed was good for them, but I don't necessarily think that if they start having frequent games postponed, that they're going to be able to do well. One big thing that kind of happened on that note, though, was today Joe Ingles didn't play another game for Achilles soreness. So I do think that that has shown that one of the key hindrances for the Jazz was not having Joe perform, that was probably due to an Achilles injury that he's been struggling with for most of the season. So I do hope to see that he's able to get the rest that he needs and to start playing again. But there could be some major shakeups. I think what is so unpredictable about trying to predict the unpredictable is what it will mainly depend on is players getting COVID. And because they get COVID, they're out for 10, 14 days versus by the time you get to players who have to be out due to contact tracing, if that's inside of the organization, the games are going to be postponed, and that will lead to it impacting the NBA more as a whole instead of just losing a star player or two and then still having to play. So to be honest, best case scenario for teams could be games being canceled due to contact tracing, but that is obviously the worst scenario for the NBA. So looks like if anyone wants to add to the comments section, that would be awesome. I was going to say join us tonight for the Washington Wizards post game tomorrow night, but of course, I've already mentioned a few times, I just keep forgetting that game has been postponed. The Jazz will be back in Utah to play Atlanta this Friday before flying to Denver to play them on Sunday. So please join us Friday night for Atlanta Hawks post-game review, Saturday for our weekly, just longer podcast, and then Sunday for that other game. Thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and have a great night.